Many people believe in the stereotype that cheer isn't a sport. Well, when we made the cheer team in middle school at the mere age of 12, our parents had to sign a waiver saying that they wouldn't sue if we died.
It might have been an easy extracurricular activity in the early days, but over time it has become a very competitive sport. The hard work put into the sport is something that should not be overlooked. Our personal experiences have put our minds and bodies to the test.
We're going to take you through a timeline to help you better understand the progression that cheer has made over the years. While I discuss the early ages of cheerleading, Delaney will discuss what it's become today. Back in the early days of cheerleading, it was nothing more than waving, smiling, and cheering for other sports teams. Amy Graff writes in her article, The Evolution of Cheerleading, a University of Minnesota student, Johnny Campbell, was the first cheerleader. In 1989, he picks up a megaphone and starts leading a crowd at a football game, screaming, "Rah, rah, rah, go Minnesota." As this simple chant is a very condescending chant to the athletes of today, it sparked an evolution of a very competitive enterprise. It wasn't until decades later that cheer teams were competing against one another. In the article, Competition Cheer Then and Now, published in 2016, explains the start of competition cheer in the 1960s. Collegiate athletes were competing against one another for the top 10 college cheerleading squads. A national annual ranking that was made what was then the International Cheerleading Foundation, but is now the Universal Cheerleading Association. These competitions helped shift the idea of cheerleading from being something that other sports teams benefit from to our own unit of athletes.
Cheerleading later became a sport in 1998 and a highly dangerous one. Without the proper technique, people were getting seriously injured. Lisa Lang and Arash Gadashanan from ABC News wrote in an article called Most Dangerous Sport of All Time May Be Cheerleading, and they tell a girl named Patty's story. They say, after just 2 months, her parents say, Patty's cheering partners were throwing her as high as 16 feet in the air. Then she suffered an accident that stopped her breathing. Her parents claim that their school's defibrillator failed, and the 45 minutes she went without oxygen left her with a brain injury that caused permanent paralysis. Stunts like these aren't allowed to be performed anymore due to the high possibility of injury, and in many cases like this one, paralysis. Nowadays, proper technique and protocol is taught to ensure the likelihood of less injuries. Cheer is now a sport that should be taken extremely seriously. Topanga Krause wrote in an article in The Observer, Cheerleading, a Sport and So Much More, and she says, cheerleaders spend hours going over routines and just as much time in the gym, lifting weights, running laps, and doing push-ups. They are in the gym at least 4 times a week. Just like most varsity sports, cheerleading is physically exhausting. This proves that cheerleading is much like other sports in the way that they work out.
Now you probably have a better understanding of what we call a sport.
Although it used to be something that wasn't taken seriously, it now should not be taken lightly. The mental and physical stress that athletes endure need to be recognized and deserve the title sport.